Let me know if the screen is already shared. If I could get someone in the chat to say yes. Can you see my screen?
And
Perfect. So my name is Saad bin Amzad. I'm a lead backend engineer at lead backend engineer 1 at Monster Lab Bangladesh. Today, the topic that I'm passionate about, it's something that is creating a havoc in the internet, is Web3. So I'll try to explain exactly what is Web3 and how it is basically shaping up the next iteration of internet in the coming days. So let me talk about the agendas first. So I divided the entire slide into specific themes, and I try to put in a lot of content so that even if you are not present in this particular live streaming show, I can post the link in our GDG mail list so that you can just go through the slides and try to read up on them. And I've also pointed down the link of further reading material so that you can get an idea about exactly what is Web3 and how we developers can be sort of prepared for the upcoming future and whatnot. So I'll try to cover exactly why we're talking about Web3 currently and how the web evolved over time and what is the expectation of Web3 in general. And then I'll be talking about the building blocks of Web3 in terms of what is blockchain, smart contracts, what is token economy, and try to shed some light on some practicalities of Web3 in terms of DAOs, Dapps, and some future trends in terms of the metaverse and beyond, and the developer tools and whatnot. So let's first try to give you the context. And since we have heard a lot about Web3 in the last year or so, since it's already the end of 2021, in the recent interview with Hindustan Time Leadership Summit, Sundar Pichai was asked this same question about exactly what is Web3 and how Google is looking into Web3 in the upcoming days. And his answer was pretty amazing in terms of saying that Web3 is early and there is a considerable excitement around decentralized internet. And the internet is, at the end of the day, a community. It's the people driving it forward. And as a company, we're always looking to contribute to it. So it is something that every tech giant is looking at it and trying to contribute as much as possible. So I'll try to explain exactly what is decentralized architecture is, Web3 is, and how Google is trying to come and also be a disruptor in this particular landscape. With some news so that people can understand how Google has proceeded in terms of Web3. Google already basically helped one of the Dapper labs, which is something is a digital asset marketplace, as you can say. So those particular company has taken Google's help, Google Cloud providers' help to scale them up over time. So already Google is basically investing in the Web3. So I'll turn off the internet is quite dodgy here. So let me stop the video. Yeah, that's fine. So as you can see, Google is basically taking a giant step towards powering blockchain in Web3. So this is a recent news. Also, if you look forward, it has also been announced in the Google Cloud blog as well that they are trying to support digital ownership and decentralization by strengthening communication and contribution, and also helping Dapper Labs to achieve what they try to achieve in the longer run. Also, if you look into the Asian countries like India, already Google is partnering with one of the marketplace of digital asset called Bakkt to introduce digital assets to consumers where people can sell, buy digital assets and store and whatnot. So there are things that are going on in this particular amazing times. But if you look into the entire ecosystem, you will see that everyone is talking about Web3, NFTs, blockchain, right? So I will try to give you some basic idea about all of these terms and what we should do. So basic idea is this, that today's talk would try to let you know exactly how the future should or will be like in the coming days. So let's start with the evolution of the web. If you have known computers from, if you are a 1990s kid, I think we all, most of the people are, and some people are like the new Z millennials. But it all happened in 1989 when one of the scientists called Sir Tim Berners-Lee created a way which is called the World Wide Web, the first browser, as well as something that is you have an hypertext document. When you click that document, you can sitting across a different server across the world. So he used to transfer his scientific reports from France to different parts of the world. So he created this entire service on top of the internet, which is called World Wide Web, so that he can basically find a means of communication between different services. So you can see already it was something that when World Wide Web came into being, it is entirely like decentralized, like someone trying to reach out to some other computer sitting across the world and whatnot. So if you really want to be amazed into how that browser worked, it is already there in the link. You can still try out the first browser that he created in the 1990s, so that you can understand exactly from how far we have come as a particular world in terms of getting connectivity and whatnot. So if you look at the number of people that are connected over the internet from 1990 to 2021, it is huge, right? It has, if you when there was this burst of mobile phones having internet connectivity, right? We have applications that runs on mobile phones, handle devices. You can see the absorption rate of the internet became more than 50% to 63.2% right now. And during the pandemic, you have already seen how much people are reliant, governments, offices are reliant on internet and the web services on top of it. So this is just a chronology of what happened in the 1990s and the 200s, initial 200s, right? Everyone was trying to create their own company, right? Internet company, and they're trying to come up with the websites. Those were like static websites, only text, nothing else. Slowly, JavaScript was formed. People were learning how to communicate via HTTP protocol. Languages came up with their own frameworks. So slowly, we could see that people are not only having static images, but they can also start to communicate and let their views know in the internet. For example, blogs started coming from 2004 onwards, where you can basically build your own website where people can come and read and interact, right? And from 2004, you have seen how social networking sites and applications like Google Maps that are quite interactive. So the amount of changes that happened, you could see from static sites was 1990s to 2003, where everything was coming together. People are defining protocols. The websites were static. People are not only investing on the technologies, but also trying to shape up what could be the next internet. So in 2004, it was basically the era of Web 1.2, which gave much more maturity in terms of the frameworks, developer tools, as well as how technological companies can be the service providers for different what should I say internet services and whatnot. So to be very honest, the first phase was known as Web 1.0. When we say 1.0, that means it undergoes some iterations. So the first version of the web, as I've already mentioned, there is this browser which looks and gives you static images, static pages of different text, is called the read-only web, where you can only read. So that was the early web, right? And when Web 2.0 came into being, everyone is trying to participate in that internet, right? So we see the companies like Google, Facebook, Apple, Amazon all came forward and gave services so that people can not only communicate with each other, but be a meaningful part of that communication. That means people are writing blogs, doing video logs, right? Producing content, people are consuming this. So you have seen a rise of these large tech companies which are giving services to all the people across different regions and ages and races. So Web 2.2 is basically the rise of the social web. It's no longer read-only, people can interact with it and whatnot. So what's Web 3 then? So Web 3 was first coined by Gavin Wood back in 2004. So it came up as an idea where people try to give some answers of the problems with Web 2.0, because some people say the web, these are like all arguments that some people say whenever you have too much power to too little people, like the tech giants can control whatever they want to, right? So it was Web 3 was something that we need to give power back to the people, right? So they were trying to promote the entire idea of decentralization again. The Web 1 was basically decentralized, when you connect to different computers who are sitting to different parts of the world without any mediator, right? But now in Web.2, you have corporations that basically enables that communication. So Web 3.0 is basically something that you have ownership on the internet, and you can communicate directly with some protocols that we'll be talking about, blockchain and whatnot. So it is basically a decentralized way of viewing internet. So that is the definition. We'll try to understand it a bit more in the next phases. So if someone asks you what is Web3, it's an idea or the iteration of internet where you have the power, right? You have the power to not only contribute, but also get some sort of benefits out of it, rather than someone taking a portion of that benefit away from two individuals, something like this, right? So what are the expectation of Web3? Is it really decentralization, or is it really something that is better than Web 2.0, or is it something like a hype? So people are still defining Web3, as you have already heard from Sundar Pichai's quote, that it is in a very early stage, but we are for sure that it will have an explosion into something much more meaningful in the coming days. That means Web3 will be, what should I say, is a moment of convergence. As you can see in the picture, that there are various things that is coming forward, like cloud computing, smart contract, NFTs, blockchains. Everything will be converged and try to shape up exactly what is Web3 in the future. So it is something that is, we're very lucky to be living in this time, that we can see exactly how the internet should look like in the coming days. So ideally, people say Web3 was always a theory that people wanted to have from the very beginning, that people should have the ultimate power. But people like us who are already in the IT sector, or people who are studying, they want to be like, Web3 is something where we hang out with cool people, we have communities, we try to change the world, also earn money while doing so, right? So people have different versions of Web3. But in general, if you want to really understand Web3, it is about ownership, that as an individual, you get ownership. And when we talk about ownership, that means you get some benefit out of it. So imagine every time you are in a social media, you're posting a message, you get a token of contribution that, yes, thank you for contributing in that social network. And basically you get some revenue at the end of the day, right? So not only you are participating, but you are also getting a benefit out of it. That means it's your social networking site or something like this. So this is something that is basically making people interested in all of these technologies. And we are in a very good time to witness this and try to develop this as we speak. So in order to develop or understand Web3 even more, we need to understand exactly how Web3 is decentralized and how it has a native payment system built in. So to understand this, let me try to give you a brief introduction to blockchain. So in order to understand blockchain, we all computer science students do understand that there is this networking that is called decentralized and distributed. So if you look into this picture, it means that someone is controlling all the nodes of the network. That means whatever decision is made in the center is being transferred to the other nodes, right? But if you look into the decentralized, you can see there are chunks where the ownership of decision making has been passed. So everyone is connected, but there are different sort of decision making groups available. So they are decentralized because you are not having a single source of decision making truth, right? And then we have the distributed network. So distributed network is basically when every node has an equal say of exactly what and how should the network behave, right? So when it comes to decentralized network, when we talk about decentralized system, always try to understand that this is a subset of the distributed system. And decentralization means that there is no single point where decision is made. Everyone has their own way to make decisions and the behavior and whatnot. So why do I talk about this? Because blockchain is this idea of how this would be like so-called giving power back to the people, right? So it is a different way of architecting internet. The picture that I'm using is of হাল খাতা during একুশে পহেলা নববর্ষ, right? So in পহেলা বৈশাখ, what we do is we start trying to create new financial records, right, on the হাল খাতা. So imagine blockchain is something that is a way to store, but this is something that is beneficial for every parties involved. So in order to understand blockchain, let me give a small example. then you can understand why peer-to-peer networks and the distributed and decentralization comes in. So imagine I want to store a data, right? So this block represents a source of data. So this data can be anything. For example, I put down the amount of, for example, for farmers want to put how much they have yielded in this particular farming season, right? So they put the amount of rice in that particular data block, right? And the next time he sold some of the rice, rice grains, right? So what he do, he changes the amount of rice that he has in the records. But you have to take care that you can see whenever some new block has been added, you cannot change the past block, right? So whenever you want to change anything on the record, so initially you started with 100 kgs of rice and rice grains, and then you sold 50 kgs, right? Then you basically have 50 kgs in this block, and you still have the 100 kgs in this block. So you can see the entire record because you cannot change it. So it is immutable. So as a result, whenever you have to add more data in that particular chain, you have to always understand that you are making a change, and the change is transparent because people can see exactly from what to where it has been changed. So blockchain is basically that idea where you link different source of data records that is shared among every one of the people within that network, so that people exactly know. Imagine your financial records are in a public ledger. Everyone can look into it, for example, so that you are very much transparent. For example, you have voting on blockchain. So every election, you know how many votes were given to which political parties. We don't know about who voted whom, but you see the records exactly which party got what. So imagine a world where blockchain is basically giving transparency as well as decision-making rights to every other individual. So in a nutshell, blockchain is basically the shared immutable ledger that is available for people to look into, and very difficult to change in the longer run. So blockchain can be of anything, of any data sets. If I sum up blockchain, it is a distributed ledger technology. It has immutable records, and there is something called smart contracts and whatnot. So I'll talk about those, but try to understand that blockchain is a protocol. It's a technology. Now, if I run that definition, now it will make more sense to you that it is a shared immutable ledger that facilitates the process of recording transactions and tracking assets in a business network. That means over a network, whatever is happening, you have a record, so that you don't need to understand who is participating in the network, but you do trust the system that nothing fraud will be happening in that particular network, right? So that is in a nutshell what blockchain is all about. So it has greater trust with strangers. You have greater security because it is very difficult to change the records, and it is more efficient because this is quite living on the computer code and whatnot. So I wrote about everything so that you can also understand blockchain in terms of Git, but you can read, we don't have much time. So imagine you are a developer, you use Git, right? Whatever changes you make, you have to ask permission from all the developers who are in that repository, and then you can only push, right? So this kind of consensus algorithm is something that is not in the Git, but it is available in blockchain, right? And that's why it is making much more trust in the network, right? Whatever change you do, whatever change you want to commit in the blockchain, it must be agreed with the strangers. So this is a picture, for example, whenever you try to put some data in the blockchain, every node in the network needs to validate it. And whenever that is validated, you can only update the blockchain. And then that change also is reflected in different computers, right? So it is a decentralized way of keeping all the records to individuals, right? And as a result, you can see that whatever happens in the network, everyone knows about it because they have validated whatever change happens in the blockchain and whatnot. So why I'm talking about so much about blockchain? Because people who are maintaining this validation, for example, the nodes, the computers which are validating, that means they're contributing, they get coins. So for example, you heard about Bitcoin, right? So Bitcoin is built up on blockchain. So what is Bitcoin? For example, all the computers that are trying to validate that, yes, your record is perfect, they get those particular coins, right? So that coin is basically, they have mined out of that network. So we don't have much time, but try to read on proof of work, proof of state. Basically, this is a validation by which the network is stable, as well as people who are contributing to the network gets benefits and whatnot. How is this secured? Because they have a cryptography technique, and that's why the crypto comes in. The cryptocurrency or the crypto in blockchain is basically the hashing techniques that ensures that there are some unique tags in every single block so that no one can change it. So all of this, right, as you can see, is leading us to a network that is controlled by individuals, entities, not one particular person, right? Uh, so when it comes to cryptocurrencies, these are not similar to blockchain, but they are built on top of blockchain. They are different things. For example, if the cryptocurrency is a car, the engine is the blockchain, right? So let's not talk about cryptocurrencies right now, but what you need to understand that this is requires to be maintained over a course of put your data in blockchain. You need to pay a fee that is called gas fee, because this fee is something that you pay to the miners who are contributing and validating your node, right? So is blockchain good enough for people to use in the upcoming days? It is quite slow. Imagine everything undergoes validation, right? So if you have a Visa card, it can have transactions per second 1700 in terms of money, right? But in terms of blockchain, if it is Bitcoin or Ethereum, the transaction per second is very low. So they have some issues. Some people say blockchain is also susceptible to hacking. Nation state with computer power, great computer power, can hack the system. Basically, they can create a fork of the actual blockchain and replace it with their own version of blockchain. So that has been done. That means whoever controls the 51% nodes in that particular computer network can change it. So there are issues, but those have been fixed and are going to be fixed soon. In terms of scalability and whatnot, blockchains do have issues. I wrote them down. We don't have much time, but they are being scaled. We have Ethereum 2. We have the concepts of delegated proof of stake and roll-ups. That means whatever load you want to give on the blockchain, it can be done in a separate chain. So it is something called roll-up technology, or you can break down the entire database into small databases called shard chains and what ways by which blockchain can be scaled in the future. So what is smart contracts? So you have something that you want to put into the blockchain, right? So that is exactly how smart contracts comes in. Smart contracts is basically your business logic by which you can automate everything on blockchain. So imagine a digital vending machine, right? If you give some coins, it will look into some logic and give you the product, right? Based on certain inputs, it gives you some outputs and give you some change, right? So smart contracts are the digital contracts, basically, and these smart contracts are simply the program stored on the blockchain. So if someone asks, where do we deploy our code? How do you deploy the code in the blockchain? Basically through the smart contracts, right? The code, you can use Solidity programming language, which looks like this, that can basically put your application on blockchain and whatnot. So why we're talking about blockchains and why we're talking about exactly smart contracts? Because it helps you to be a part of an economy. So what do I mean by economy? For example, token economy, right? So imagine a particular company giving you vouchers or gift cards. That means that particular token is something of a value to you. You can utilize that particular token, like gift token. For example, if I give a $500 token to Habib for his birthday, he can use that token and buy anything from his preferred shop. I can use it. So that means that particular token is already there in the society. People know how token works. It can be gift cards, vouchers, bonus points, and whatnot. So imagine you are part of a system. You are contributing to internet and you get something in return. So that entire concept of creator economy or token economy is something that can be built on blockchain technology. And that's how digital assets comes in, right? So let me give you some examples of token. Like you have Bitcoins, like Ethereums. These are like payment tokens. Utility tokens, NFTs. So there are different types of tokens which can give you a sense of ownership and a benefit out of it. So let me now tell you a brief about NFTs, right? So imagine me and me and Abu have the same car, right? So for example, I have 100 taka note. If I give it to Abu, this 100 taka note, he can use this 100 taka note anywhere because it is completely interchangeable. So that is called fungible asset. That means you can interchange for a specific service. So 100 taka note will always be 100 taka note, no matter where you spent inside Bangladesh, right? Or you can exchange it in a different currency. But imagine both Abu and me have a smart watch. Both have been bought in the same time. But over the course of time, for example, Abu has become the Google developer expert, right? So his watch has a value because this is the watch of a Google developer expert, for example, right? So has a greater value than the watch that I have. That means I cannot exchange my watch with Abu because Abu has some experiences with that watch. He has gone to places using that watch. So that idea that you cannot interchange is called the non-fungible assets, right? And that is exactly what NFTs come into. So I will give you an example of the recent chess world championship. For example, imagine they're playing, right? And you are not part of that system. When Magnus Carlsen is playing Jan Nepomniachtchi, you cannot be part of that system. But after they play, there is a decisive moment when he plays rook, as you can, rook to h2, right? Rook to a2. That means this is a very decisive moment in the game. And Magnus with his company can create an NFT, which I can own, and I can tell my friends, grandparents, and everyone in my family that I am also part of the history because that particular move on the chessboard is now in the digital world and I own that particular digital world, right? So you can see you can be part of that entire token economy where someone is creating those tokens and you are buying it. And even if you sell that token later on to Habib in some other place, I will also still get the money because you can always get royalty from NFTs. So imagine in an art industry how important it is if you're creating a digital arts, music video and whatnot. If you're selling it to some other individuals, you will always get the royalty back. So all of these, right, are helping token economy or creator economy to boom and take ownership of the internet. So you have your, so why do I say ownership of internet? And that's what brings us to the DAO. But let me have a clock check. How many minutes do I have? Yes, so I'll try to wrap up, but DAOs, so how do you take ownership? So DAO is a basically decentralized autonomous organization. So what do I mean by this? For example, there is no hierarchy, no boss, no CEOs. Everyone is making their decisions. So imagine a Google developer group, everyone is trying to, we are a community. If we have a community on the blockchain, it will be like a Google developer DAO, because everyone can come up with different proposals. People can vote for proposals. People can make, people who are organizing this gets a token because they contributed to the system. I'm presenting my speaker notes. I also get some rewards. It can be NFTs and whatnot. So you can see it's a community. Everyone owns that from the very beginning, right? So I will give a normal example, not to make it complicated. For example, in India, there is this thing called Amul, milk products and dairy milks and whatnot, right? So this Amul model in Bangla, that is called Samobai Samiti, right? Everyone gets the ownership of the company from the first place, from the day one, and the profit is being shared for the amount of contribution they make, right? So this is an old economic model coming in the technological age. So all of these changes are something that you need to take care of. You need to look into this space. So try to, you can get the beta out of it. So as a developers, how do we make the applications? These are called Dapps, like decentralized applications. That means instead of interface server database, what you have is you have web, mobile applications interacting with your smart contracts, as I have shown you, and that smart contracts lives on the blockchain, right? So Dapps is decentralized applications built on blockchains, and they have smart contracts. So you can see it has a built-in payment system. As Sundar Pichai also says that it is a decentralized internet where you have a built-in payment system. That means everyone can pay, get money and whatnot by various cryptocurrencies, or it can be government currencies as well. So I have written down everything exactly what you need to look forward and try to read through them. You can also contact me at the very end. Also recently, we did a hackathon in Monster Lab where we presented a Web3 and a DAO example. You can read the blog and can look exactly how we created a web application that sits on top of a blockchain and whatnot. So the entire world that we are coming up in the future is amazing, because as you have known, people are living in a virtual world. People will be in virtual world owning digital assets. So the entire community is trying to prepare for this. So if you look into the jobs in the metaverse and the technological giants, everyone has a say in it, like creators, community builders, participants, performers, bridgers, all can be part of this experience in the virtual world. But I really like the idea of Sundar Pichai in the Google interview that he mentioned, that people want to be in the real world but also get the best out of it, right? That means imagine the AR world, right, where Google Maps can be interacted via your smart glasses and whatnot. So you can be in your real world but also can get the benefit. So you have AI, augmented realities, and you can know about more in the Google Dev talks regarding how AR, VR works. But the idea is this, that we have a huge metaverse market. Developers and contributors, community people can be part of that system as well. So if I give you some examples, what you can learn in the future is, if you know React, that's good. If you want to learn a Solidity language to develop smart contracts, you can also do that. But all of this basically tells you that the future is going to be changed. If we look into the trends in India, yes, cryptocurrency is banned and the mining is not allowed, but Indian government is slowly coming up with their own currency, the Indian digital currency, right? That means you can own digital assets using that digital currency. So all the other nations will also slowly adapt to this concept of currencies that are built on top of blockchain, which may be a legal tender based on the government. So there are some regulations. There will be regulations. We don't know exactly how it would look like. So people are looking into this going in the future. In the Muslim world, yes, cryptocurrency is banned, for example, in some countries like Indonesia, but there are Muslim world where they have cryptocurrencies called 1 gram, which is backed by gold, which is Sharia compliant. So you can see regulations are coming. People are trying to understand it's better. So do follow the trends that are happening in the world. So if I sum up the entire thing, there are critics of big tech corporations who say Web3 is nothing but a hype. It is too early. Someone is trolling, Elon Musk is trolling and whatnot. But at the end, we do understand that Web3 will be there. Web will interact, iterate into a better version. It will operate with alongside Web 2.0. For example, yes, for example, you already see Google scaling up solutions of Dapps Labs who are building marketplaces on top of blockchain, right? So Web 2.0 won't be replaced, but Web 3 will be part of Web 2 as well to give you the best possible. For example, if you look at Google, hopefully they will give you some scaling solutions that is also low in carbon footprint, but also on blockchain. So amazing future up ahead. So I, as a speaker, can say one thing is for sure, change will happen. So do try to look into this space. So if you have any questions, do follow me in Twitter. I have my GitHub link and the LinkedIn posted. I'll be happily trying to answer all of your questions. We didn't have much time today, but I hope it gave you some example of what is Web3. That means the power belongs to the people. Everyone has their benefits out of it. So that's it for